Kia ora everybody, this video is to assist NCEA Level 2 English students to explore the purpose behind a film, specifically Pleasantville, for this film study. So this lesson is going to explore what Gary Ross, the director, was trying to achieve with this film and how this is relevant to us as viewers. Now these are two key elements for a level 2 essay. They're vital to include if you are wanting to gain merit or excellence in your externals. It's a very important part of the analysis process of a film. So it's kind of the last piece of the puzzle. When we've looked at judgment statements and ideas, we've looked at evidence, and now we're looking at what is the purpose, what's it for. So kind of all the elements coming together. You'll notice here on some of the slides, there is this symbol. That symbol means you need to copy the notes that are on that slide, including any highlighting. So I recommend that you take these notes in your film notes assignment on Teams, so everything is collated. If you can do it in a book as well, that's not a problem, just wherever makes the most sense for you. So specifically, we're talking about this concept called beyond the text. So the text is the film itself, so we're looking beyond that. Why was it created? How does it impact the audience? What is the effect? What do we take away from it? All those big thinking ideas. So you'll see you've got the symbol here, so you need to copy down the slide in these notes. So beyond the text is the comment section of your essay paragraphs. If you're familiar with the sexy structure of essay paragraphs, the statement, explanation, example, comment, beyond the text is like the comment section, okay? It specifically extends your analysis beyond the world of the text into a wider context. So beyond the text is more than this is what happens in the film. It's like this is what the film represents. This is what we take away from the film. So it's that one step further. And you need it because essays that don't have beyond the text discussion don't achieve merit or excellence at level 2 because it's not the full analysis. So one part of analysis is exploring film techniques and their effects, the what, how, why. The other part of the analysis is understanding the purpose of the text. And this is explored even further in level 3 English in year 13, but not including a discussion of purpose at all will not lead to a merit or excellence because it's a vital part of the analysis process. So beyond the text is made up of two specific things. Remember I said it's part of those sexy paragraphs. So statement, explanation, example, comment. If you're unfamiliar with that, we are going to be looking at this next week, so don't panic. But the comment is made up of two parts. Firstly, it's made up of the director's purpose and the audience response. These are highlighted for a reason, so make sure you copy that highlighting because it will help you overall. So the comment section of a paragraph is made up of these two separate elements. So the director's purpose, what is it? What's it made up of? What's it for? This is the part of the essay, or the essay paragraph, where you explain why the director would want us to consider the key ideas you've explored, and obviously with evidence. So you've provided a judgment statement and you've given some evidence from scenes to explain that this is how it's presented. So the next comes the why. Why does the director want us to consider this? So it could be to challenge us to explore an idea, so to challenge us to think about something that maybe we haven't considered. It could be to get us to examine or question something in ourselves, so the way we see the world or the way we think or what we believe. It could be to get us for him to convince us of his idea, so he's trying to convince us that the world is a certain way. Or to inform us about an idea or inform us about our world. So like trying to give us more information so that we can make our own choices. So it's any one of those things. It can be more of those. Director's purpose is generally around 2 to 3 sentences, sometimes 4, especially at level 2, because it's more developed and it's more sophisticated. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like shortly. So that's the first part, the director's purpose. The next part is the audience response, or sometimes known as viewer response. So this comes after the director's purpose. This is the part of the essay where you explain why the understanding of these key ideas actually matters. So the director's purpose is like, this is what the director wants us to understand or think about. And the audience response is, this is why it matters. This is how we respond to that. So you need to ask yourself, what is the benefit to the audience in understanding this? So what do we gain from it? And you can use personal pronouns like I, me, or we. And it can be very specific to you as a personal response, or it can be general like we as a society, if you like. So exploring how these ideas are relevant. So why is it relevant that Gary Ross is telling us the story about 1950s USA and the conformity? Like, why is that relevant for that to be made in 1990s and then watched in 2022? Like, what is he trying to say about that time? You know, it's not just about this is what the film is about. It's like how we respond to it. And that's really where the excellence lies, because that's where you're exploring the real purpose of the text. What's it for? And this, in the audience response, is where you can include context that's relevant to our world or society or the human condition. So things that are happening currently or the way our world is. This is where you can bring in those things that are relevant to us. But it has to be relevant. You don't just throw in, and this is like what's happening today, if it's not even relevant, because that doesn't help you. As an example, one I've heard in the past is something along the lines of the conformist nature of 1950s American society can be compared to Nazi Germany. Not really. It's quite different, okay? So don't just throw in a random connection just because you're like, oh, this is kind of like this. It's better to not make that connection, because it is kind of suggesting you don't really understand. So you can link to context, but it has to be relevant. So let's see that put together. So the example that's going to come up on the screen, you can find it in Teams under Files, Class Materials, Film, and Beyond the Text. So if you're working digitally, I suggest you copy and paste that into your notes, into the notes assignment. If you're working on paper, I think you should download a copy of it and still highlight it, because it helps you kind of see what we're talking about. So director's purpose and audience response. So let's say the idea that we're exploring is social expectations can be destructive. And let's say I've provided evidence from Betty's makeup scene, just for sake of argument. So the green is the director's purpose and the blue is the audience response. So make sure you highlight it. So social expectations can be destructive. Ross plays on the emotions of the viewer at this point, as he wants us to feel sympathy for Betty and pleased that she is now happy. However, what Ross confronts us with is how Betty is now happy that she has hidden her true identity and would rather conform to the expectations of others instead of being an individual. Ross is helping us understand how difficult it is to go against the status quo and the way human nature forces us to want to be like others and not stand out too much on our own. So that's the director's purpose in green. We're starting to consider what Gary Ross wanted us to take from this character and what we are supposed to better understand about this idea in our own world. So what are we supposed to learn? So from that, we go to the audience response. How do we feel? How does it affect us? We are left conflicted, but we understand Ross's message that by having such strong expectations in our world, we don't allow people to be who they truly are and make it difficult for anyone to try to challenge social norms. This is particularly true for current expectations of women in our society, as women are criticised for both being too feminine and too masculine and face social ridicule for swaying too far on either side. Ross reminds us of the importance of individual identities and the benefits that come with diversity in society, as well as the way we categorise people with specific expectations and how they can be damaging to those who don't fit them. But you see how that's more the audience response. This is where the viewer's response is developed using I, we, or the viewer. Okay, you'll notice specifically that the context that I've drawn on is about expectations of women. Now, I found that's relevant because Betty's makeup scene has a strong focus on that because of the way Betty is presented and the extreme close-ups on her face and the makeup and things like that. So I've made specific links to modern contexts of women in our society and gender roles and expectations because that's relevant to the scene. So it makes sense. And of course, all of this is connected to my major idea that social expectations can be destructive. That's what I'm trying to prove. That's what I'm trying to talk about. So you see how long these are. There are a few sentences long, 3 or 4. That's the expectation for each paragraph. If you're looking for merit and excellence, you have to explain things in that much detail and that level of sophistication. So for the rest of the spell, I want you to have a go and see how you do. So these are your instructions. So you can pause the video or stop the video and just use this to look at while you do this work. So you can do this in your film notes assignment on Teams or in your book. It doesn't matter. But try and think very carefully about what idea you're going to choose and then how you're going to tie the director's purpose and the audience response into that. So don't just parrot out something about social change or self-expression. Try and be as specific as you can, because the more specific and the more developed you are in your comment, in your discussion of beyond the text, the better your essay is. So we have to be able to connect the idea, the evidence, the director's purpose, and the audience response. So see how you go with that.